नमस्कार, कार्यक्रम तेस्रो आँखामा तपाईलाई स्वागत छ। म छत्र शंकर। सगरमाथा टेलिभिजन सञ्चार जगतमा तपाईको तेस्रो आँखा। यही उद्घोषका साथ हामी तपाईहरूलाई सूचना दिने अभियानमा छौं। कार्यक्रम तेस्रो आँखा समाजको यस्तो दृष्टि हो जसले समाजका हरेक घटनाको सन्तुलित तथा सूक्ष्म तरिकाले छिरफार गर्छ। आजको कार्यक्रममा हामी नेपाल र रसिया बीचको सम्बन्धको आयामबारे प्रसङ्ग जोड्नेछौँ। हो, यति बेला नेपालमा विदेशी शक्ति केन्द्रहरूले चलखेल बढाइरहेका छन्। दक्षिणी तथा उत्तरी छिमेकी देशहरू मात्र होइन, अन्य पश्चिमा देशले पनि नेपालमा आफ्नो उपस्थिति देखाउन चाहन्छन्। सन् 1956 देखि नेपालसँग कूटनीतिक सम्बन्ध विस्तार गरेको युरोपेली मुलुक रसियाले पनि नेपालमा विभिन्न क्षेत्रमा आर्थिक सहयोग गरेर आफ्नो भूमिका बढाउन चाहिरहेको छ। हेरौं, नेपालका लागि रसियन राजदूत डाक्टर सर्गेई भेलिचकिनसँग हाम्रा सहकर्मी ईश्वर खनालले गरेको यो विशेष संवाद।
So welcome to Sagarmatha television.
Thank you.
Russia has been a very good friend of Nepal. So it's been almost 55 years of bilateral relationship between the two countries. So how do you plan to further strengthen the ties between the two countries during a tenure as an ambassador to Nepal?
Well, thank you for this question, because it enables me indeed to remind the respected audience of the Sagarmatha TV that this July indeed we would be celebrating the 55th anniversary of the establishment of our diplomatic relations. And, well, should I say that the best way to celebrate it, of course, will be to see some renewed progress in our indeed multifaceted cooperation, which has been established over the years. When I came here just several months back, I very soon discovered that people here still remember some of the projects which symbolize a good start in our cooperation in the economic field. And I was especially impressed by the role which plays in the process of making the Nepalese society aware of these new opportunities by our friendship societies. My effort as an ambassador to promote this cooperation. But we have much more opportunity nowadays that the situation in Nepal gradually is getting stabilized, and society is demanding renewed efforts to upgrade economic climate, economic thrust, I would say, of the new government, of the Nepalese authorities.
Like, as you said, there are opportunities. So what could be those opportunities that you could tap?
For instance, we might have some increased interaction in the fields like hydro energy, like construction, which have been, by the way, mentioned during exchanges, the more recent exchanges at different levels, including an unprecedented negotiation between the heads of government of the two states, which took part in St. Petersburg in November last, when in a very positive manner these fields have been mentioned, and of course the possibilities connected with the tourist year, which we witness in Nepal now unveiling.
2011.
Yes, 2011 are concerned. Well, in terms of tourist traffic, what is important, of course, is first to create awareness in Russia of what Nepal might offer them. And you have really unlimited possibilities here. As an ambassador, I would be, of course, trying to promote it. And secondly, I think we should create facilities for travel to Nepal. One of the very important possibilities in that regard is to re-establish direct flight between the two countries, as mentioned by the two prime ministers during the exchange which I have mentioned.
Your Excellency, is it possible to re-establish direct flight now, in the near future?
I think it is, provided the private aircraft carrier, national company Aeroflot in Russia, which used to conduct those flights, gets the right conditions for it, which would interest it in commercial terms. I believe that it is possible nowadays. And in fact, the tourist traffic as such is expanding now, even under the limited logistical conditions. In the year before last, we had around 6,000 tourists coming from Russia, which, given, as I said, those constraints, logistical constraints, seem to me quite promising. The Russian tourists, normally, they are just the kind of people who are taking special interest in those cultural, civilizational objects which Nepal is so rich with.
Besides sightseeing?
Sightseeing as such, of course, but I mean places like, for example, your Nagarkot area,
yes,
like your Dulikhel area, but of course what you have here in the city itself, Hanuman Doka, Patan Square, Bhaktapur, Buddha Nilkantha, all these and many more might be mentioned. Of course, we'll be providing all the necessary information and will be cooperating in that with the embassy of this country in Moscow, with active participation of Ambassador Gurung there. Will be also places like Chitwan, Lumbini, and Pokhara.
Excellency, will it be possible for you to speculate the number of Russian tourists coming to Nepal this year? What would be the number?
It is difficult for me now to say how many exactly will be coming.
But some target?
But I think that we may expect that at least not less than the number we had, I mentioned, the year before last one. I'm not referring to the last year simply because we don't yet have final statistics. Why I think so? Because the Russians are more and more traveling abroad, and some of the international tourist markets, as you of course know, unfortunately have suffered due to dramatic developments. I think we should be more pondering over what positive ways we should evolve in order to attract additional tourists. I think the development of infrastructure might also help, but the primary effort should be, as I said, to spread this information, to bring this awareness. I think it is possible, and as I said, I assure you I would be contributing to that.
But the situation in Nepal, the current situation is quite normal. So let's hope that more and more tourists would come to Nepal.
Yes, I must say that, and I already mentioned it, In my judgment, the situation is definitely changing for the better, and I welcome, in my capacity as the ambassador of a friendly country, the latest developments of practically every major force here reiterating its commitment to speedily accomplishing the historic tasks of peace process and constitution making. We have reports of late that there are some concrete steps taken in this regard, and may I wish, using this opportunity, to the people of Nepal the early completion of these all-important programs for the benefit of this country.
Your Excellency, you talked about Nepal's peace process, constitution drafting process. So how optimistic are you that the peace process and the constitution drafting process would be concluded within the stipulated time frame?
Generally, I'm optimistic, but I don't think I can at this stage. And while I'm in the company of, I understand, most of the analysts here in this country predict indeed whether it is possible to keep to such timetable or that time-bound program as announced. It's a matter for politicians, most of all for representatives of the Nepalese people elected by themselves for that purpose in the Constitutional Assembly to resolve.
That means you are quite optimistic.
I am optimistic, as I said, but let us be cautious in this regard. One thing which should be noted, though, is that I don't see any significant obstacle to implementing what seems to me indeed overall desire of all the Nepalese people, of all the constituencies which elected the MPs and entrusted them with this job.
So we talked about investment opportunities, like you talked about hydropower projects. So do you have any plan to implement this in the near future, or you are still in the pipeline, or you are still planning?
It mostly depends upon the Nepalese side. Upon the legislative framework, I understand you are working on to provide the right conditions. And an important visit will be paid to Ministry of Energy of this country. I think it will lead, as I said, to the increased awareness in Russia of the possibilities there. And I hope that consequently it will be followed up by more specific and pragmatic discussions between the representatives of private enterprise, of course with an active role of the Nepalese state, and given our expertise which is there, experience, availability of specialists, I think it will result in something tangible pretty soon.
So we talked about hydropower, we talked about tourism. So what could be other sectors that Russia would be interested to get involved in?
I actually started with a field where we have very positive and encouraging experience, the field of education. I believe that education in Russia still remains attractive. The quality of facilities, of the teachers, professors, remains very high. And actually, this is one field where has not been much of a pause which characterized the state of our relations in 90s and to some extent, to a substantial extent, during the first decade of this millennium. Well, there, uninterruptedly, we have people from here, the promising youth, coming to Russia and returning to take part, for most of them indeed to take part, in rebuilding, reconstructing new, democratic, prosperous Nepal of the future, even now before our eyes. I have met all these such people. I am greatly encouraged by this process. We have a very impressive record of cooperation, maybe unique to both countries, in such a field as interaction between highest judicial bodies of the two countries. Let me inform the audience of your TV channel that this uniqueness is in the span of 4 years only, we have had 4 visits of the supreme justices of our two countries. It's absolutely unique. These exchanges, they result in sharing experience on the most topical issues, including those which are subject of debate among the constitution makers. Added to that is the prospect of establishing relations formalized by a memorandum of understanding between Prosecutor General's Office of Russia and the Attorney General of Nepal. A draft is already under discussion. We are having a draft already in the pipeline of an MOU between the ministries of culture of the two countries. I think that there is great interest for Russian culture among the Nepalese whom I know. And as far as interest in Russia for Nepalese culture, for Nepalese civilization. Exchanges of performing groups, of figures in film industry, let us say in art, some exhibitions, libraries, all this will help us to promote exchanges in tourism and in commercial and economic field as well. Because these things are interconnected, as I say.
Okay. So, Your Excellency, can I interpret this way? Like, okay, Russia is optimistic, positive to increase the number of scholarships. Can I take this way?
Well, the number of scholarships is more or less constant. It is 15, going on 20 now. But besides that, there is an increasing number of people who are going there on their own. The financial conditions are comparatively favorable there, compared with some similar facilities offered by some other countries. Besides, we have a dynamic Nepalese community, not numerous, but very authoritative there in Moscow itself.
जुनसुकै मुलुकको दूत बनेर नेपाल आउने तथा विदेश जाने कूटनीतिज्ञहरू वास्तवमै भाषा लगायत हरेक पक्षमा पोख्त हुनुपर्छ। यी नेपालका लागि रसियन राजदूतको भाषा शून्य हो भने धेरै वर्ष विभिन्न देशको बसाइमा उनले जुन देशमा गए पनि त्यहाँको भाषा बोल्न सक्ने भएका छन्। उनले हामीसँगको केही कुराकानी उर्दू भाषामै गरेका थिए।
जैसे कि आपकी मर्जी हो, लेकिन मैं समझता हूँ कि यहाँ नेपाल में उर्दू तो इतनी मकबूल नहीं है, फिर भी कई बार मुझे ऐसे मौका मिला जब हम तबादल ख्यालात करते हुए इसमें बात करते तो मज़े से, और मैं समझता हूँ कि जो लोग मुझसे उर्दू बात कर रहे थे उस वक्त, तो उनकी मुस्कुराहटों से, उनके चेहरों पर मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि उनके लिए ये भी कोई ऐसी नाखुशगवार तजर्बा नहीं था. Well, I'm not sure that these Urdu words are easily followed here because it's different somewhat. But then, as you know, knowing colloquial Hindustani at some level may come in handy in Nepal as well. My experience now is limited to this less than 4 months, but such occasions were there not only with educated people, but while I was visiting, for example, Chitwan area or Lumbini, in those parts it seems it is more useful. But I look forward to knowing your country more. And maybe with the passage of times, with some new encounters, I will be more optimistic about usage of my Urdu, even under Nepalese circumstances.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your attention.
वास्तवमै रसियाले नेपालको पर्यटन विकास, आर्थिक तथा वाणिज्य क्षेत्रमा लगानी बढाउन चाहन्छ। त्यसका लागि नेपालमा स्थायी सरकार र नयाँ संविधान मात्र होइन, नेपाल र रसिया बीचको सिधा हवाई सेवा विस्तारका लागि रसिया सरकार सकारात्मक देखिएको छ। हवस् त, आजका लागि कार्यक्रम तेस्रो आँखा यति नै। कार्यक्रमबारे कुनै प्रतिक्रिया भए thadai@sagarmatha.tv मा इमेल गर्न सक्नुहुनेछ। कार्यक्रमबाट सम्पूर्ण युनिट सहित मलाई पनि बिदा दिनुहोस्। नेपालको पहिलो न्युज च्यानल सगरमाथा टेलिभिजन हेर्दै गर्नुहोला। नमस्कार।